Before we watched TV shows and movies on Narcos, and even before Pablo Escobar's rise to fame, there was one man who was the ultimate narco. He lived the narco life of greed, money, and power, but found a way to reclaim his life and use his astonishing experiences to empower others to live a life of hope, meaning, and redemption. Welcome to the Narco Mindset Podcast, where Dr. Jorge Valdes shares his journey through life before and after the Medellin Drug Cartel, from torture and multiple prison sentences to how he refocused his life onto a path of principles learned as a narco. It's time to share that raw truth with you, right here on the Narco Mindset Podcast, with your host, Dr. Jorge Valdes.
Today on the Narco Mindset Podcast, we look around the world and we see that there is so much misery. So if there was a God, why would he permit any of this? I just simply could not understand. I come to the realization that I am so poor that God don't care about me. I don't know about you. I had a lot of fun sinning. Sin is fun. Like Gandhi said one time, I love Jesus. I just have a hell of a hard time with Christians. A man that people said ice ran through my veins suddenly wept. You will suffer more on this earth than we will have joy. That's just life. Welcome to the Narco Mindset Podcast. My name is Dr. Jorge Valdes. Today I want to talk about a subject that it was something that was very, very confusing to me, and something that, especially when I was an atheist, that I always had trouble with. And to be honest, I still have trouble with today. We look around the world and we see that there is so much misery. Let's talk about the times that we are right now, and we see that we have this virus that everyone is petrified about. So as we see this virus today, and we see that there's so many people that are scared, and so many people that have lost their jobs. And I look at the world and I see mothers that are, 60, 70% of all mothers are raising a single child, or 60 to 7% of all children are being raised by a single mother. And I see the fact that even if those mothers had a job, how could they go to work? Who's there to take care of their child? Who's there to take care of their baby? And then we have the problem with the schools. We ended up closing the schools, especially with children that are very, very minimal risk. And I understand that they feel like the children can bring the disease over to some school teachers, and that there are some school teachers that are of an elderly age. And I look at this whole thing and I said, look, if you're at risk, stay home. But there's no way that the economy should be shut down, that the country should be shut down, that the world should be shut down over the fact that, 50,000 people go out and kill someone. They get drunk and kill an innocent person, and nobody stops driving. The suicide rate that we have, as I've repeated over and over again, is enormous. The drug addiction rate is tremendous. And we see all the horrors that are going on. My daughter is a special ed teacher, and she's always telling me, said that, a lot of my kids don't even want to go home because, school is the only safe place that they have. Number one, it's the only safe place that they get a full, real meal, a hot meal. And some of them have to go home to an abusive home or an alcoholic mother. And then there's a vast majority of them that they're going to give them a computer or a tablet so they can do their homework. But interesting enough, they don't even have internet in their homes. So it's a very, very complex problem. And me as a Christian that believe that God is in control of the universe, that believe that my life, that nothing happens in my life that's out of the realm of God, and whatever happens in my life, he either ordains or permits. And sometimes I don't understand that. But I look at the world and I wonder, especially before when I was an atheist, when people want to talk about God, I'm like, how can there be a God? Look at all the good mothers that can't have babies, and whores are having babies in crack houses every day. Look at how many good people die. Look at the most horrific acts of mankind when a father or a mother has to bury a child against nature. So if there was a God, why would he permit any of this? I just simply could not understand and could not believe, or even refuse to accept the fact that, there was a God of the universe that cared, and there was a God of the universe that was in control of everything that happened in people's lives. So I simply believe that, hey, you know what? If there's a God, it's going to be you, and you're in control of your circumstances. You're in control whether whatever happens to you or doesn't, and whatever is out of your control, that's just the way life is. We live, we die, we suffer. But again, if there's a God, then suffering should not exist, right? And then let's look at when something horrible happens in our life. The first question most people have is, why would God allow that? Think about it. Why would God allow a heinous murderer to put his foot in the neck of a person, whether he's guilty or not, whether he was a good person or a bad person, insignificant? It was a human being that was begging for his life, and this demonic police officer just sat there with a stare at the people filming him, not giving a crap about what was going on. So if there's a good God, well, why wouldn't he not stop that? So for me to sit here and to tell you that I have the answers, it'd be lying to you. There's no way that I have the answers. I never had the answers, and I don't think I ever will. After becoming a Christian and realizing that as I look back through life, there are many scriptures that help me to deal with that doubt. But at the end of the day, I say to myself, if there is a heaven, and when I get there, which I believe as a Christian and that there is, when I get there, I'm just going to have to ask Jesus to take out some of that good wine that he served at Cana. I'm a wine lover. And let's talk about this and let him answer me. And then, there's a biblical verse in the Bible that says, right now we're looking through a foggy glass and we really just don't understand and we can't see. But one day we are going to see the way we are being seen. Anyway, that's the way I go through life. That's the way I see life. But there was a psalm that really, really helped me to be able to make some sense of this horror. And it was Psalm 73. I'll read it to you. I mean, don't look at it as a religious text. To me it is. But just look at it as what it says. Because I think that when you read the words carefully and you see how it ends, then you realize that here's David, a man that was, committed a horrific crime, killed his best soldier because he ended up having sex with his wife. A man that could have any woman in the kingdom. But that's human nature, right? We want the forbidden. So he comes before God and he says, how good God is to Israel, to those whose hearts are pure. But as for me, I came so close to the edge of the cliff. My feet were slipping and I was almost gone. For I was envious of the prosperity of the proud and the wicked. Yes, all through our life, the road is smooth. Think about it. You see drug dealers, you see bad people, you see people that are cheating others, abusing others, and you say, look, it's amazing. Their life is so good. So the psalm continues, they grow sleek and fat. They aren't always in trouble and plagued with problems like everyone else. So their pride sparkles like a jeweled necklace and their clothing is woven of cruelty. These fat cats have everything their hearts could ever wish for. So David's looking at this and saying, wow, it's amazing. These people are so evil. They don't lack for anything. They have everything. They prosper. And yet the innocent suffer so much. He goes on to say, they scoff at God and threaten his people. How proudly they speak. They boast against the very heavens and their words strut through the earth. And so God's people are dismayed and confused and drink it all in. Like himself. So, he considers himself one of God's people. And he said, I'm confused. I'm dismayed. I'm just sitting here and just taking all this and wondering in reality, was David wondering, was God real or not? Was his belief in vain? Was it all stupidity? So he asked, does God realize what's going on? Look at this men of arrogance. They never have to lift a finger. Theirs is a life of ease, and all the time the riches multiply. Have I been wasting my time? Think about it. Even those of us of faith. It's easy to believe in God in the suburbia America, especially in white suburbia America. But I always say, how much faith does it take? For example, when I moved to Mexico and I saw people that didn't miss a single mass and their faith was unmovable, but yet they missed meals every week. I remember doing a big event and this older lady come to me crying after the event and she said, Dr. Valdez, I'm so glad I came here today. But I come to a realization that I am so poor that God don't care about me. All I have ever asked God, I never asked him for anything for me. I never asked him for food, for work. All I ever asked God was to protect my 3 grandchildren. And I lost every single one of them in a drive-by shooting. I finally laid in bed Because I finally told myself, I just want to die because I'm so insignificant that God doesn't care about me. So if your whole faith is in God and you come to a decision, God doesn't care about you, why do you want to go on living? She said, but I came today and realized that God does care about me. God does love me. And I don't understand what's going on, but I will see my grandchildren in heaven again one day. So David goes on, have I been wasting my time? Why take the trouble to be pure? All I get out of it is trouble and woe every day and all day long. I always said that if there's something in the Bible that I do not believe or that I doubt, then I'm not going to believe it all. So I either believe everything or I don't believe anything. That's just the way I look at it. And I tell people, if I don't believe any of it, and I come to the decision that there's no God, then why not live a life of sin? Listen, I don't know about you. I had a lot of fun sinning. Sin is fun. Look, if sinning means hitting your thumb with a hammer, no one would sin. But unfortunately, sin is attractive, sin is luring, and sin is fun. What no one tells you, though, is that sin will destroy your soul, your existence, and everything about you and will devastate your entire life. Trust me, I was there. Of all sinners, I doubt anyone was greater than me. And it came to a point I just wanted to die because it really just devastates you. So David goes on to say, yet it is so hard to explain it. This prosperity of those who hate God. But then he said, then one day I went into God's sanctuary to meditate and thought about the future of this evil man. God, what is God's sanctuary? Basically, it just means you find your alone time. For me, it's every morning about 5 o'clock in the morning. I start my day. I wake up at 4:30, 4:45. The first thing I do is I hit my app on my phone for my Nespresso. It turns my coffee on, and then I answer my emails. But before I answer any email, I do my prayers. And it just gives me a certain amount of peace. And I've been praying for the same thing now for over 2 years and still haven't seen no result, but I keep praying because I keep believing. Because at the end of the day, what I got to lose? If God is not real, then, I didn't lose anything. I had faith, and it allowed me to go through times, with the hope that things will work out. And if I did not have that, then I would just be miserable every day. So I do that. That's my quiet time. That is my sanctuary. My wife is lovely asleep. Everyone in the house is asleep. It is quiet. And I can meditate. So I do a series of prayers that I do, and then I read a psalm every day. And then I start my day until my wife gets up, and 6:45, 7 o'clock, we walk the dog for 5 miles, and then we say a rosary. Very different rosary. We pray the rosary. A little different. I just take the 5 decades, and I have specific things. Like the first one, I just pray for my entire family, all my children and grandchildren by name. And at the same time, like I said, if all of it is a waste of time, for me it's not, because what else do I got to think about? If I don't believe in that, if I don't have the hope that God is real, then I'm just, instead of praying and having faith and peace, I would just be in turmoil. So like David, I go into his sanctuary. So David went into his sanctuary to meditate. And then he says, what a slippery path they are on. Suddenly God will send them sliding over the edge of the cliff and down to their destruction. An instant end to all their happiness, an eternity of terror. Their present life is only a dream. They will awaken to a truth as one awakens from a dream of things that never really were. And I'm going to tell you, when I read that psalm, it was me. Yeah, I lived a hell of a life. I had everything. I made $1 million a month. I had all the women in the world that I wanted. But one day, and I wasn't even dealing drugs anymore. I walked away for 4 years. It all just came down shattering. And then I find myself laying in a steel bunk, Mobile, Alabama, facing spending the rest of my life in jail with not $1 to buy a damn freaking candy bar. So I know how quickly things come, how quickly things go. So David continued, when I saw this, what turmoil filled my heart? I saw myself so stupid and so ignorant. I must seem like an animal to you, God. But even so, you love me. And that is the amazement about God. That even when we're stupid, even when we just act dumb, even when we don't believe, his love is so immense. And this is what I try to share with people. I don't try to convert people to become a Christian, to become Catholic, Protestant, evangelical, whatever they are, to become Jewish, to become Muslim. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is just to share how the love of a Jewish carpenter. See, people can have all kinds of problems with religion, with church, rightfully so. I mean, listen, I got jaded by the church, so I know what people are talking about. Like Gandhi said one time, I love Jesus. I just have a hell of a hard time with Christians. And it's sad because the reason that a lot of people are not attracted to Jesus is nothing to do with Jesus. It has to do with us. You know, millions were attracted to Jesus. Think about it. Whores, good women, tax collectors, thieves, religious people, good people, bad people, everybody. He was a magnet to humanity. And why was that? Because his love, his unconditional love. The way he looked at Jorge Valdes and one day said, and when I read that scripture one day, I loved you when you were a sinner. I cried and I wept because I realized, how the hell can God love me when I was into pornography, when I was a cheater, when I was a drug dealer, when I didn't give a damn about any human being in this world, when all I cared was about getting richer and richer, more power and more power. He loved me then, not now that I've given my life to him. I mean, he loves me now, but I'm saying that's the amazing thing about Jesus. He's going to love you right where you're at. And I said this podcast is not about being religious, and it's not. It is not by no means. It is about me telling you how I fell in love with the George Carpenter. That's all. Because his love was so immense when all the millions of dollars in the world, when all the money, all the power couldn't fill me. When going to bed with 3 gorgeous women couldn't fill me. His love transformed my heart. A man that people said ice ran through my veins suddenly wept. Now I weep at everything. My children said that I become a punk. Anyway, so David continues, he says, I must seem like an animal to you, oh God, but even so you love me. You are holding my right hand. You will keep on guiding me all my life with your wisdom and counsel. And afterwards, you're going to receive me to the glories of heaven. Amazing, huh? Look, get this visual. So you grab someone next to you, a family member, grab their hands up there above the wrist and let them hold you above the wrist. Now suddenly, tell them to hold on and you let go of their hand. See, you let go of their hand, but they're still holding on to you. And that's the amazement about God, about Jesus. I let go of my hand. I let go of his hands. He never let go of mine. I thank God because I'm just an idiot. He says, I will keep on guiding you all my life with your wisdom and counsel. And afterwards, you're going to receive me into glory. Whom have I, and this is the most critical part of the whole verse, whom have I in heaven but you? And I desire to no one on earth as much as you. My health failed me, my spirit drooped, yet God remains. He is the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. But those refusing to worship God will perish, for he destroys those serving other gods. So here's the amazing thing for me. Again, if I live my life believing that there is a Jesus and that I'm going to spend eternity with him, and I get there and nothing's there, I haven't lost nothing. I've lived a good life. You know, I've had a life of faith. I've been good to people. I've tried to help everyone that I can. You know, I care for the hungry. I care for the lonely. I care for the poor. I care for everyone that is suffering. You know, I look at this COVID and this quarantine. Listen, one person not suffering is me. By God's grace, you know, I'm financially secure. By God's grace, 2, 3, 4 months of quarantine means nothing. I was in quarantine 10 years. I didn't have no Netflix. I didn't have my wife. I didn't have no wine, no good food. So I made it. And I lived at 3 by. I live in a gorgeous home now. I got the most beautiful wife that God ever created. I adore my children. To me, quarantine means nothing. But it means so much to so many people. So many people with mental illness. Our country is full of it. And we just don't care. So many people are going to be devastated beyond no means. Isn't it amazing? We got the worst unemployment history, worse than the Great Depression, yet the stock market is soaring. What does it tell you? The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. So who do we turn to when all things is dark? And here's what's most amazing about all. If you draw a line in a piece of paper and you put joy and suffering, joy on the left, suffering on the right, and you say, I'm going to live 90 years. Let's say you're going to live 100 years. Then you put how much time of joy you've had, and we have a lot of joy. You know, we see children being born, we get married. You know, we enjoy all kinds of different things. But then you put the suffering line, and I guarantee you, you will suffer more on this earth than we will have joy. That's just life. We'll bury children, God forbid. We'll bury our parents. We'll lose jobs. We'll go through financial challenges. We'll see times like this, depression. We'll see the financial crisis. We'll see all unemployment. We'll be fired. We'll reach an age where no longer we can take care of ourselves. And now those that we took care of when they were babies, we're dependent upon them to take care of us now. So it's amazing how things turn. So that's the world that we live in. So I asked myself, we are such a perfect, right now still there's no computer that will match the human brain. So then why such a perfect creation brought into this earth to suffer more than to have joy? Well, for me, it's mainly one purpose: to help bring my children to heaven and to impact the lives of those and every one of those that I can, to make a difference in the world, to not just settle for things the way that they are, but to ask, what can I do to make things better? Every single one of us can change the world. Just depends whether we want to or not. Every single one of us can impact a life. It just depends whether we give a shit or not. At the end of the day, the amazing thing is that if we do live 100 years, it's nothing compared to eternity. Think about that. So we go through life and we play with eternity every day of our lives. If we're told that we got cancer and we're going to die, and we have our whole family's fortune, but if we can spend it, we can live another 30, 40 years, we'll do that and leave our family behind with nothing or struggle through the rest of those 30, 40 years because of that human greed to take care of oneself and not give a damn about anybody else. If I am told tomorrow that I got cancer, I'm going to die, trust me, I'll do everything I can to get healthy and to live longer, but I'm not going to suffer one bit. I'm not going to drop one tear, and I sure as hell ain't going to spend the money that I want my wife to have financial security, because I've lived a good life. And I do believe that I'm going to see my parents again. When my dad died, he died in my arms. And for me to go through life believing that I won't see the men that I love the most, really honestly, it's not worth living. So then, therefore, that's just how I live my life. And I go through life, and I go through day by day, do the best that I can every day, mess up constantly. And when I do, I ask for forgiveness. I ask for help. One time I wanted to be the best husband in the world. I wanted to be the best father, the best friend, the best Christian. And then I realized a good friend of mine, Phil Nagel, said to me, well, it's impossible to be the best. We used to have, accountability sessions. And we used to meet once every 3 weeks and have lunch. And I would share my heart with him. And I said, I'm so frustrated because I want to be the best and I keep screwing up. And he said, because it's impossible for you to want to be the best. He said, now here's the formula that works for me. Every day, I simply say a prayer. I want to be just a little better husband, just a little better father, just a little better son, just a little better friend. And guess what? A little better I can be. And if I'm a little better every day, then one day I'll be a hell of a lot much better. So we go through this world and we think about ourselves when in reality, it is just a passing moment. I think about the first time I was arrested. I was 23 years old. I'm 64 now. It's unbelievable. For me to look back and think about the crazy things that I did, a kid that was a nerd, a kid that had drawn specific lines that he would never cross, a kid that was brought up with great principles, with a great mother and a great father, I just destroyed them all. Why? For the lure of that fleeting moment, that moment where evil people prosper and the good suffer. But it was just for a moment. Because eventually I lost it all. Eventually I had to go through a really hard desert in my life. But for whatever reason, now that I had given my life, or I had fallen in love with the Jewish carpenter, all of a sudden my life had meaning. My life had purpose. I don't know how many years I was going to live. I didn't know if I was going to get out of prison or not. But I knew one thing, that whatever I lived on this earth, I was going to live it with purpose. I was just not going to let a day go by that I could not be just a little better and do just a little better. So think about your life. In those moments of darkness, have faith, trust that there's a God of the universe. Again, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, he is one God. There's the God of the universe. For me, his name is Jesus. But for you, whatever makes you happy, but just have faith and believe that God loves you. Because for me, he loved me so much that he gave his only son to die for me. I have right now, my son came to me to do a neat little project that I'm going to be sharing with you in the following days in my YouTube channel. And that is, he's a aspiring filmmaker, and he's been thinking about being part of this. Next year, there's going to be a documentary about my life, or a docu-series, or a mini-series. And he came up with the idea that I thought it was really good. And actually, it was enlightened by, Billy Corbin of Raconteur Studios, who did Cocaine Cowboys. And that is to tell my story through his eyes. So my son, Esteban, who's a wholesome kid, a good kid, a holy kid, he knows one side of his father. The father that left his company and moved the family to Mexico so I could go to all his little league games, so I can go to all his swim meets when he was doing Iron Kids, so I can go to all his golf games when he played golf. The father that made him breakfast, took him to school, and picked him up from school. That's the father he knows, the father that adores his mother, the father that taught him, son, you're going to be the husband I am, and you're going to pick a wife like your mother. So that's how important I live my life. So the father has invested a lot of time in his life and very, very close to him. So he's going to tell that story. But then there is another father that he did not know. Another father that was this infamous drug lord that didn't give a shit about anybody, anything, just power, money, greed. So he's going to try really hard to tell those two stories. In the meantime, there's a lot of people that I'm getting a lot of questions about my life, how to live now, what do I do? Because the interesting thing is that if we look at Pablo Escobar, El Chapo, or any of those, we don't know what their life would have been after their drug world or after being a kingpin or a drug lord, because they're either dead or in prison. But I was blessed to have another chance at life and to redefine myself, to reinvent myself, and to become someone different. So I get a lot of emails, and also I urge you, listeners, if you have any questions, send me an email. I answer all my emails personally. I get a lot of questions about the life I lived, and he gets those questions from some of his friends. So he came up to me and said, hey, Dad, let's do a blog about a week in the life of Jorge Valdes and show the world how this guy who lived the most lavish, exotic, extravagant life today is happy living just a simple life. So he follows me around and takes, clips of the things I do in the morning, walking the dog, praying. We play cards every day after dinner. We play cards as a family. We play Uno. I try to cheat so I can win. Still a little bit of a gangster in me, I guess. And then we'll watch one movie or one show. We love Americans Got Talent because we see, how some people are just living out their dreams. And then my wife and I retired to our bedroom, and we read, go to bed by 10 o'clock, 10:30, I'm asleep. Because at 4:30, no matter how much I want to sleep late, damn it, I just can't. 4:30, my eyes open like an owl. And that's our daily life. And then we do different things as a family. Just simple things, because we find joy in those simple things. So I hope you enjoy. I'm by no way or no means I want to be the next Kardashians. We just simply want to show you the world that, listen, even someone who had all the power in the world and lived a life that very few would ever dream of living can find joy, happiness, and true love in living a simple life. I always say the wealthiest in this world, not the one that has the most. Actually, he or she that needs the least. So thank you for listening today to the Narco Mindset Podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, follow us. Go to my website at www.jorgevaldezphd.com. If you join our community, you get a free copy of the book. If you send me an email, I will answer it. You can listen to our podcast. You can listen to our YouTube. Follow my writings. I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly posting blogs, doing the podcast, do the Narco Mindset Weekly Edition, which is just some short. And then also my new book, the work of really my life's work, even though. So here's one thing. So my last work, Narco Mindset Journal, you can find it on the www.narcomindset. It's amazing because how long did it take me to do it? I tell people it took me about 3 months and a lifetime. Because what it is it was something that was urged to me by my son, my middle son, Alex, who has really sought my counsel a lot. And I've shared with him principles in life that have helped me get to where I am in life, that helped me overcome prison, that helped me overcome tortures, that helped me overcome poverty coming from Cuba, and becoming and building an unbelievable empire, that helped me overcome losing everything that I had, and at the same time rebuilding, earning a Ph.D., building a multi-million-dollar national international company. The mindset, because it's how we look at the world. Doesn't matter what we see. What matters is how. The mindset that says, I have no fear. The mindset that says, I don't never know what the word is, I can't. To me, what's important is, how can I? So it's 12 weeks, and it helps you to recreate yourself, to reinvent yourself, to begin to look at the world a lot different, to look at the world with success, with power, no fear. And at the end of the week, it's a surprise. At the end of the 12th week, it's a surprise. It will help you create a code. Do you live by a code? Is there a code that you live by that will define who you are as a person, that will tell the world what you will do every day of your life, no matter what, whether you're tortured, whether you're beat, whether you're shot at, whether you go to prison? Do you have that code? I do. So I'll share that code with you at the end of the Narco Mindset Journal. It's fascinating. It's exciting. There's a lot of things that are happening, a lot of things that we're getting ready to do. So just follow us. If you have nothing else better to do, and perhaps you'll learn something. Perhaps you'll find something. Perhaps I'll share a story that'll bring peace to your life and to your heart. And if you're struggling with anything, send me an email. I promise you, I will answer it myself. My staff will give it to me. And my executive assistant, Mary Fernandez, receives all the emails, and she makes sure that I answer every single one. If you take time to write to me, I'll take time to write back to you. God bless you. Have a wonderful time. And again, subscribe to our channel. Share our social media with all your friends. The way that we build a cartel, let's build a community that can change the world for good. God bless you.
We've come to the conclusion of this episode of the Narco Mindset Podcast, but your path towards hope, meaning, and redemption continues. For more information and resources to help you on your path towards finding a life built on integrity, honor, and truth, head to JorgeValdezPh.D.com and join our community. We appreciate you joining us for this episode and look forward to helping you find your turning point right here on the Narco Mindset Podcast.